Welcome to the Warnes podcast, Piers. Thank you so much for joining me.
Jackson, I finally met you.
I know.
I mean, that's the biggest bombshell of today. I've never
I know.
actually met you.
I
I've
know.
heard so much about you
Yeah.
from your dad, and it's great to finally meet you.
No, thank you for having me. This is the first for me as well. We're in your, did you call it dressing room or change room?
Yeah, this is actually another person's dressing room next to mine. Mine is like the hallowed turf.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit like a dressing room in a test match. You're not allowed in.
No.
I mean, I let certain people in, but
Yeah.
you didn't pass the bar.
That's
Next
right.
trip, I'll maybe get you through into the hallowed turf.
Okay. And maybe if England beat us in the Ashes, maybe you'll feel a bit sorry and be like, okay, fine, you're allowed in.
I've got a good feeling about the Ashes.
Really?
I think we're going to hammer you.
Really? That was actually the last thing I wanted to talk about. We can talk about it now, but the Ashes.
Well, I normally don't talk to Australians in Ashes here.
About the cricket?
I have a clear rule.
Really?
You're the only one I've basically agreed to talk to.
Really?
Yeah, I have to get into Ashes mode. Nothing friendly with Australians.
Really?
No, of course not.
So how long has that sort of started for?
Oh, many years. Yeah, if I find myself even a cafe, a restaurant,
Yeah.
walking down the street, if someone comes up to me and goes, "Good day, mate," I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Australian?
No. Absolutely not.
Have you had that when you've been to Australia before for an Australian Ashes? Have you been to Australia before for an Australian Ashes?
I have, Jackson, yes. I went in 2013 where Brett Lee spread eagled my ribs at the MCG with your father standing as umpire, encouraging him right to the end when he realised I was probably about to be killed. And at that point, he told him to give me something to hit. And then Brett bowled me a Yorker. So your father's plan didn't really work.
Did you play cricket yourself growing up?
Yeah.
You did?
I was pretty good. When I was about 11, 12, I was a young fast bowler. I got into the England prep schools squad when I was 12, and I was pretty useful. And then I went to the local state school. We ran out of money a bit. And then I went from playing every day for hours in lovely nets in a private school to suddenly not really playing at all, no equipment, no teachers. And over that sort of 2-year period, I lost my chance, if you like, to see if I was ever going to be really good enough. But then I played club cricket for 20 years for my local village team down on the South Coast, down in East Sussex. And funny enough, I used to have a game where we would take on the village. And it happened because the first time I did a family team against my village, they pulled in a ringer, some Pakistani batsman who got 140. I went, if you want to play that game, I'm going to be better at it than you. So the next year I turned up with about 4 West Indians in the current test team. And then after the years, I got everybody. Curtly Ambrose, Courtney Walsh, Freddie Flintoff, Kevin Peterson, Inzamam Al-Hood, Brian Lara, you name it. And we kept being beaten.
Yeah.
And then I invited your father.
So you lost even with that super team?
Oh, we lost. I used to have 2 or 3 ringers every year, and we kept losing. Chris Gale, all of them. None of them brought me victory. And then your father came down with Tino Best and Adam Hollyoak. And I only know this for a fact because the Facebook yesterday sent me a reminder, a memory of the picture of all of us celebrating. I'll give it to you later.
Wow.
Of all of us celebrating on the hallowed Newark Village cricket turf, the first time we'd beaten the village. And it's because your dad, unlike a lot of the other pros, took it unbelievably seriously.
Yeah.
He was determined not to give them an inch. And that's why we won. And that says everything about your father.
Well, he was definitely somebody when he played, he wanted the pressure and he wanted that responsibility because he'd loved it. And he wanted the cricket ball. He never looked at a game from a losing position. He always thought until it stumps that the game could be won. Whether it was, you need, 2 wickets off the last over, he still would think, no, I can win the game.
He was the same at golf.
Yes. So
I played golf with him a few times. I mean, he was even worse at golf. I mean, he was merciless.
So you played with him at the Dunhill as well?
Yeah.
How was he at the Dunhill?
Well, you know what? It was funny because I played with him when he always played with Ryan Fox, so we had the Aussie Kiwi double act and they were great together, obviously. But I mean, your dad played golf exactly like you played cricket, right? He just wanted to stamp on his opponent's neck and keep you throttled for the entire round. But very funny, endless banter, very funny stories. And actually with me, because I wasn't as good at golf as him by a long way, incredibly encouraging. And that's the other thing about your dad was that if you weren't actually pitched against him, which I wasn't, I wasn't really competing against him in the Dunhill, almost competing with yourselves.
Yeah, with yourself.
He was incredibly kind and generous with his time, his advice. He tried to help me with my swing, my grip, and and that again was a brilliant thing about your dad. One of the early times I remember taking my kids to a test match. I think it was 2009 Ashes. And I said to your dad, I'd known him a few years, and I said, any chance you could just say hello to my boys? They're all young. They're all like under 12. He went, of course, mate. He said, I'll come down. He came down, did some pictures. He went, hey, boys, do you want to come and see the commentary box at Sky? And he took them up, and we were up there. It must have been up there for 45 minutes.
Wow.
With the dad giving them a masterclass in how to commentate, how it all worked, everything. They were completely mesmerised. But that was your dad, you know, he, as you know, better than anybody, incredibly big-hearted man. He was all in. If you were family, if you were a friend, all in. There was no, you know, if I ever asked him for a favour, immediately, yes, I'll do it. Almost whatever it was.
He was always so generous with his time and with his energy, and he loved helping people. That's why he started the charity. That's why he did everything he's done in his whole career and whole life. He just wanted to help people. But there's one thing that I've loved here in the last 2-3 years is how many stories just from normal people that he never said no to a photo, wanted to give them advice. I saw so many times little kids that asked for a signature. He would sign the autograph and then tell them go 20 meters back and actually just bowl some balls to him.
Yeah.
But like he loved it.
I remember playing in a charity game, the Victor Blank annual game, who I used to work with actually at the Daily Mirror. And he used to get a lot of famous people down there to play. And I remember your dad just bowling in the nets to the kids, and my boys got in there. Yeah. This was years before I really knew him. Yeah. And just the time and the patience with kids and showing them how to bowl leg breaks and googlies. And of course, he only had about 3 balls, actually. Yeah. But the way he talked, he had 25.
Yeah, the way he could sell.
It was always the mystery ball, which never actually existed. You know, he had the slider, he had the googly, he had the leg break, and that was pretty much, that was it. Yeah. But he made you think every ball was a hand grenade.
And that's why he loved the psychology part of sport. Like he would be literally on tours pretending he's just come up with a new ball, a new variation of spin, let more top spin or comes in fast and slower, spins more. But the batsman would believe it. And if they didn't believe it, by the time they figured out, hang on, that's just a normal leg spin, it's too late. You're out.
Well, my favourite story of his sledging, because he was a world-class sledger.
Daryl Cullinan?
Daryl Cullinan.
Yes, Daryl Cullinan.
It's just the best story where Daryl had terrible problems with the dad in one series. And then he was dropped and then he got brought back and they were playing Australia again. And he made a fatal error. He told the local paper that he'd been to see a psychiatrist and he now got the mental strength and skills to deal with Shane Warne. And so, of course, he comes out to bat. Your dad gets the ball, and the first thing he does is said to him, hey, Daryl, what colour was the couch, mate? Because I'm going to send you right back there.
Yeah, it's such a good story because he just loved the psychological warfare. He just loved being able to get into people's heads. And I think that's why after he retired, are you a poker player?
Yeah.
He loved his poker.
He was brilliant at poker.
Yeah, he loved his poker. And it was a way for him, I guess, a bit like golf, to stay competitive, to bring people together. Did you ever play poker with him?
No, but you reminded me of another example. Like up at the Dunhill, for a few years, we had a thing with old hickory clubs, 100-year-old clubs. And I used to be the sort of compere for it on the 18th at the Old Course St Andrews. He even took that incredibly seriously. Yeah. He even won the Hickory Club's challenge because he couldn't stand to lose at anything. Yeah. But again, very generous with his time, very big-hearted with the other people competing. But he was you were under no illusion. He wanted to beat you. I
do need to say thank you as well for when it was in 2022, it was you, Joe Root, KP and Michael Vaughan. And you did I think it was just after the Hickory Challenge, or just before. And it was to say just a cheers to the great man. And I think you had a shot of vodka Red Bull. Vodka Red Bull. It was a mini shot of vodka Red Bull. Just saying thank you.
There's a reason for that.
Of course. So the
reason for that is in your dad's last Dunhill.
At 2021.
A few months before he died. Ian Bothan and I both had long COVID. So COVID was raging around. We both had long COVID. So we couldn't taste alcohol. So we weren't drinking. So we were incredibly boring. So about midnight, we stumbled off to bed completely sober. And we passed, and knackered because long COVID made you feel really tired. Yeah. And we passed your dad and he said, look at you, you lightweights, gave us a load of this. And then I heard him turn to the waiter and he said, mate, just bring me a vodka Red Bull every 8 minutes till I fall over. Yeah. So that apparently is what then happened. I wake up and on the group WhatsApp chat, there's a video of your dad at 3:30, timed, where he's on the stage singing Satisfaction in the lead role of Mick Jagger with the backing band. He was seen going off about 5:36 to bed. I found out later from him he had 1 hour sleep, if that. He then went out the next day, having made the cut at the Dunhill, which is the last day. So you play for 4 days, 3 days everyone plays, top 20 pairs out of 160 odd go through to the Sunday. He made the cut and was playing with Ryan to win the Pro-Am, and they missed out by 1 shot.
Yeah, I remember.
But he, I think I'm right in saying, shot a better gross score than Ryan that day.
Wow.
But either way, he shot the best round of his life.
Off 1 hour sleep.
Less than an hour's sleep, and probably by my calculation, every 8 minutes from midnight, vodka Red Bulls, enough vodka Red Bull to probably sink a battleship.
Well, that was definitely his favourite 2 weeks of the whole year. Yeah. He always would have a year booked in advance on his big calendar. It was his favourite thing to do. He loved planning, he loved being organised. And one thing that he'd always have planned out, the first thing, even around his birthday, was the 2 weeks that was for the Dunhill.
Yeah.
Always around that September 13 to 20th, sometimes a bit before. But that was his favourite 2 weeks ever. And so I'm pretty sure I've seen those videos just to see him just so happy and smiling. And also in that environment of the Dunhill, you feel like really safe and you feel comfortable because you're around sort of similar people.
Very protected, and very poignant thing about the Dunhill with your dad, because the next year Ryan Fox won it.
I know, that was another...
And that was a real tearjerker for a lot of us, because that was Shane looking down. And, you know, when we did that little toast after doing the Hickory Challenge without him, first time without him, and we all thought about that and how incredibly poignant it would be, because the tournament wasn't over then. We were like, Ryan was doing really well. Wouldn't it be amazing if Ryan Fox was to win? He was in contention.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be amazing if he won? And he won. And he got emotional when he won. Yeah. But, you know, going back the next year without your dad there was a very strange thing for everybody, because he was just the life and soul. I mean, he wasn't any room he ever walked into. But at the Dunhill in particular, stuff revolved around your dad. Yeah. And people gravitated to him because you knew you'd have a good time.
Well, I think, am I right in saying you get a tie, and on the back of the tie it's how many times you've been to the Dunhill?
Yes.
I'd have to find that tie, because I'm pretty sure he's been to maybe 15 or 16 of them. But that was his favourite 2 weeks.
I found out your dad had died from Johan Rupert, whose tournament it is.
Yeah, of course.
He's put a message out just saying, I couldn't believe, I'd literally been texting with your dad the night before. Yeah. We'd been arguing about the merits of Vegemite against Marmite. Yeah. Literally the day before he died.
Yeah.
He was arguing Vegemite was better. Yeah. I said Marmite is better. Yeah. He said, you would say that, you're a Marmite character. I went, okay, but it is actually tastier. He said, yeah, but it sticks in your teeth too much. Yeah. And then I'd written a column. It was just around the time of the Ukraine war starting. Yeah. Vladimir Putin had just invaded Russia. And your dad has strong views about that. And I'd written a column really attacking what had happened. And he said, good, you know, absolutely. Yeah. He was a very opinionated man. Yeah. But he was always honest to his own opinions. Yeah. He would say stuff because he meant it. I love that about him.
And he was very good friends with Shevchenko as well, who I think at the time was the manager of the Ukraine national team.
I think that's right.
That was one of the sort of the 3-4 people he always used to play golf with in the UK.
That's right.
But talking about Dad's opinions, he was always somebody that would stick to opinion and never change. Or he would be open to hearing the other side of it, but he backed his own belief and trust his own sort of experiences to make an opinion about that stuff.
Well, he hated the whole woke culture.
Yeah, well, that's
and I've got a book out called Woke is Dead.
Yes.
Because I just think that most people have woken up now to how ridiculous it is.
Yeah.
But, he hated that. And he used to always, every time I was taking on one of the wokies, as we call them, he used to always send me a message. Oh, mate, watching this.
I think there was a few times where when you're on Good Morning Britain, and you were talking to, I think, a vegan or a vegetarian or something about eat meat or something. And I was watching that with him. And there was another time as well when I think there was an overweight person saying they can't lose weight. And you said, oh, isn't losing weight, you just eat less and exercise more. And I'm watching this, and me and Dad are going, it's such a good point, and they're trying to combat that's not how you lose weight, but like that is.
Of course.
That is how you lose weight.
Of course.
But going back to Dad, what was sort of like your first impression with him? Because he wasn't that friendly with...
No, he was a bit standoffish with me, particularly because I was a tabloid editor.
Well, yeah, with journalists and reporters.
So he was a bit standoffish with me. And the first couple of times I met him, he was a bit cool because he didn't really trust journalists.
Of course, yeah.
He'd been through a few big sort of scandalous things, and I think he was very wary. But I think, with your dad, once you earned his trust...
Yeah, very loyal.
He was unbelievably loyal. And I was so happy to get into his inner circle where it's a big inner circle. I'm not pretending for a moment I was one of his closest friends, but we certainly saw a lot of each other and always had a great time together.
Had a lot in common as well.
Had a lot in common, and we had kids, and we talked about that a lot. He was incredibly proud of you guys, and he'd be amazingly proud of what you're doing now. He'd love this, because you're very good at this. Even though you've just started, you've already got your dad's natural, like you got the charm, you've got the. You obviously done your research. You've got a natural way with a camera. All these things, they're not.
Thank you.
You know, a lot of people don't have that.
Well, that was something that if you'd spoken to me 2-3 years ago, I would be the shyest and most introverted person you've ever met. But we also have another friend in common, Anne Middleton, who when I did my show, SAS, he was the very first season in Australia and he did a course over there. And that's where I sort of just came out of my shell because I was so out of my comfort zone, first time being on camera. But then after Dad had passed and I had to do the state memorial and now with the legacy, talking a bit more on camera, I'm starting to finally come out of my shell. But I was always Dad's mini-me my whole life. But I didn't really take much note of it. But I think now all of the stuff I was sort of subconsciously learning and absorbing, it's finally coming out. But thank you for noticing that, Piers. So do you have a relationship with your sons like that?
Yeah, very much
I saw you were just in Sandra Pay with them.
Yeah, very much so. I'm very close to my boys. I've got 3 boys and a daughter now, younger daughter. But my boys are all like 32, 28, 24. But we love cricket. We love hanging out together. We love arguing. I mean, it always reminded me, your relationship with your dad, very similar. A lot of banter flying around, but also great closeness. And I felt I was utterly heartbroken for you when he died, because it was so sudden and so heartbreaking for everyone that knew him, but for you guys in particular, it must have been just unbearable. And I immediately thought of my own kids and how it would be for them and everything else. I was texting with your grandparents about it, and who are wonderful people, and it was just an awful blow for everybody. But I think you'd be looking down now and saying, good on you, Jackson. This is, I think you're made to do this.
Well, this was something that me and Dad spoke about and would have been mid to late 2018-19. And this was something that, like, personally, I would have loved to have done with Dad, because I love the father-son dynamic, the guests he would have been able to talk to, and Dad's personality. He could talk to anybody. He could talk to yourself, the Queen, the Prime Minister, person in the smoker's room, he could talk to anybody.
But he would treat everyone the same.
He would treat everybody the same, and he was always himself. So that's just something that I know when I'm doing this and talking to you and talking to people.
You're very like
him.
I've never met you before.
Yeah.
You're very like your dad.
In which way?
I just think if I'd met your dad when he was younger, I imagine he'd be...
Do you think?
Well, I think he was probably a bit more of a larrikin when he was younger than you are.
Well, if you met my sister Brooke and you combined us, that's when you'd get... That would be Dad, because my older sister Brooke is very much like my dad in terms of like the loudness and the likes to have a drink and the larrikin side.
You're probably like my kids, where they've all got a little bit of me.
A little bit of you.
You put them together and you've got the thing. But I see your spirit in you, definitely.
Do you even see the thin hair? Because I am going a bit...
I was a bit worried about that. I was thinking you're going to be doing one of those hair loss ads soon.
I might have to get on Advanced Hair Studio, because I've literally looked in the camera a few days ago and I did another podcast and I saw on the side there's a bald spot. So I might actually need to reach out to Advanced Hair Studio. But
those ads, they were everywhere, those ads.
Well, I reckon he was the global ambassador from the early 2000s, because it was in the UK as well. I remember he used to go and it'd be like the advanced But yeah, so what about this Ashes, do you think? You actually think England have got a chance?
Oh, we're definitely going to win.
Really?
Well, if Archer and Wood are fit and we can use them in rotation, so we've got real pace, I think we've got a way better batting lineup now. Your boys all look like they're falling apart. I'm not even sure he's going to open the batting for you, all bat 3.
Well, it's almost like in the next few years as well, we're going to lose a lot of players. A bit like when Dad sort of retired. It was Dad, Glenn McGrath, JL, all retired, and then a few years after that. We're lucky that Punter stayed on until I think 2011 or 12. But that's sort of the feeling I'm getting with the Australian squad now. Do you have a relationship with like Ben Stokes or Joe Root?
Yeah,
any of them?
Yeah, a lot of them, yeah. I get on well with all of them. Joe was up at the Dunhill actually a couple of years ago.
Oh, was he?
Funny enough, on the road hole at the old course St Andrews, we have to hit it over the hotel. I was live on Sky Sports, and you and Murray, the commentator, went, "There's Piers Morgan." And I went, boom, and he just went straight in the hotel. And he went, "And that's room 417. So I woke up the next morning, everyone was laughing about it because it was all live on telly. And it hit the top, and then it hit every balcony going down before it ended up in the swimming pool. So it went doom, doom, all live on TV.
Yeah.
And next morning, Joe Root sent me a picture, and it was a golf ball with room 417 on it. He just
Yeah.
said, "Mate, do you want your ball back?" But yeah, a lot of them. I mean, Brody's been up there now. Jimmy Anderson played last year. Ben hasn't played with Dunhill, but I've known Ben a long time. I know a lot of the England guys. I mean, Ollie Pope I've known a long time. Ben Duckett I've known a long time. But yeah, I think they're a very good team.
Yeah.
And I think batting wise in particular, I suspect the annals of cricket history will show that Joe Root and Harry Brook will go down as two of the greatest to ever play for England in terms of batting.
Yeah.
Stokes will be one of the greatest, if not the greatest all-rounder. Ian Botham might have a say in that, and so might Freddie, actually. But Stokes would have a good claim to be the greatest ever. So you've got some players in there who are genuinely goats of the game, certainly in Root and Stokes. So I think that we're ready for you. And Archer's quick, as your boys knew when he was prepping around the head at Lord's. So I think he's coming for you.
Well, I know Ben Stokes, one of his best ever innings in 2019 was unbelievable. And I think people remember moments, and Ben Stokes has got so many memorable moments that he's already etched himself in cricket history, I think, especially in England. But he's somebody I met in 2019 at the BMW PGA. It was Dad, Jimmy Anderson, Ben Stokes, and Danny Willett, and we were playing in the Pro-Am. But I've got so many happy memories with Dad and everything.
Oh, I bet.
Two things I'd love to talk to you about with Dad as well is the knighthood.
Yeah.
I saw when you said Dad should be a knighthood or
Should
a
have
sir,
been.
because there was a long time ago as well when this first campaign started. I reckon it was maybe 2015 or 16, like 10 years ago, because all four of the other five Wisden cricketers except for Dad have been knighted.
He should have been knighted. I think it's completely wrong he wasn't knighted.
Yeah. Do you think because of all just the off-field
I just think he gives Alistair Cook a knighthood and not Shane Warne. Come on.
Why do you think there was no knighthood?
You know what? Sometimes
Politics?
Possibly. You have to be squeaky clean, supposedly, or whatever. But why? Your dad brought so much pleasure to millions of people. He is one of the most iconic cricketers in history, the greatest bowler to ever play the game, ever.
So that you've got him as your number one?
There's no doubt in my mind at all. I mean, it kills me, but both of the greatest of all time, batting and bowling, are Bradman and Shane Warne. Right? To me, in terms of batting and bowling. But he was also a fantastic character who did amazing amounts for charity.
Good for the game.
Helped so many people, and he made people laugh. He entertained them, and yeah, all right, he could have been a bit of a naughty boy occasionally. But you know, most of my great sporting heroes were the same.
Yeah,
you can't expect people to play with that level of genius and be boring dullards.
And I think that also just shows that you're human. Like
of course.
It shows that you're human. He always put his hand up and said, I know what I've made a mistake. And
your dad never pretended to be anything he wasn't.
And that is literally the best quote ever, because I've said that in so many interviews and podcasts when I'm talking about him. He always used to say, never try and be somebody you're not.
And my only advice to you, broadcaster to broadcaster.
I'm still learning, so any advice?
My only advice is be authentic, be true to yourself, like your dad was. Your dad was exactly the same on camera as he ever was in private. You never thought, wow, that guy's different. Same guy. Right? Just be authentic. Whoever Jackson Warne really is, show the world that person when you're doing this. The guy that you meet in the pub, the cafe, the restaurant, the cricket pitch, whatever it may be, just be the same guy.
Well,
people don't try and be somebody else, because the followers will come if they believe you're authentic.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've tried to do my whole life. And I think no matter if I'm talking on camera or off camera, I try and always be the same, because that way you're not getting caught up in, oh, what did I just say? Or what? You're just being yourself. And if you can always just be yourself, I think in a way you'd have really no demons, because...
Well, there's a great saying, isn't there? The Shakespeare quote, to thine own self be true, and it follows thou can't be false to any man. In other words, if you're true to yourself, you're never going to represent yourself in a false way to people. Yeah. And I think there's an honesty to that, which makes life much more enjoyable. I certainly try and lead my life like that, because I think if you pretend you're something you're not, the public eventually see through that, as do family and friends and everybody else.
Yeah, and I think with the rise of social media and how much people are on camera and talking and they get to see your view, I feel like they can sense fakeness straight away.
No question.
You have to be genuine. You have to be yourself. And because if you're not, you can literally smell it and see it straight away. Yeah. If you're being disingenuous.
Your father could smell a bullshitter from about 3,000 miles.
Yeah. You have spoken a lot about Dad. When did you first get into sort of journalism and reporting? Like, when did you know that wanted to be like the thing?
From when I was like 7 or 8, I used to read the papers every day.
Really?
Yeah, Daily Mail, my parents used to get. Yeah. And they remember me just poring over news. I was a news junkie.
So you'd be reading it on the newspapers. And...
only ever wanted to be a journalist.
Yeah.
And then went to journalism college, got onto local newspapers in South London, the Streatham and Tooting News, the Wimbledon News. Had my first big scoop when I exposed a security scandal at Wimbledon tennis, where I managed to get into the players' dressing room during the tournament, got into the royal box, had Colin Cowdrey, the legendary cricketer, the great England cricketer, who came out to bat against Lillian Thompson in 74, aged 42 years old. He served me a gin and tonic in the royal box at Wimbledon before somebody said, "Who are you?" I went, "Actually, I'm a journalist from the Wimbledon News." "What? Get out!" And I got banned for life from Wimbledon. But that.
So you've never been to Wimbledon since?
No, I have, because the guy who banned me, then he lost his job. But but I can remember the front page of Wimbledon News, like a very genteel local paper. Suddenly it was exclusive Wimbledon security scandal by our man, and it got into the national papers and stuff. And then I had it. Then I really had the bug. And I was like, I love this. And so I then got onto the Sun when I was about 21. And then I took over the Sun's big showbiz column, the bizarre column. And then when I was 28, I became editor of the News of the World, Rupert Murdoch, maybe the youngest editor ever at the time.
Wow.
And then I defected to the Daily Mirror, ran that for 10 years. And then I became the youngest editor ever to be fired.
From
age 38. From the whole thing. So I was out. My editing career was over before I was 40. Most people don't start till they're 50. So I was like, I did it a weird way around. But then I went into television.
And at least you've got all of that experience as well then to come when you turn 40.
And I think everything I learned as a journalist is still, I see myself as a journalist.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Even when I was judging piano playing pigs on America's Got Talent or Britain's Got Talent, or I was doing Celebrity Apprentice where Donald Trump was the host and I won it, or I was doing CNN replacing Larry King at CNN, or doing Good Morning Britain. Everything to me has been about me being a journalist. All the skill sets I had for that have been brilliant throughout everything I'm doing. And now I'm doing a big YouTube channel, Piers Morgan Uncensored, exactly the same. It's all about being a journalist.
With Piers Morgan Uncensored as well, that gives you the platform to literally be uncensored and talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Has there been somebody that you've wanted to talk to but haven't got the chance yet?
There's a few. I'm trying to get Elon Musk. He's proved a bit elusive. He said yes, then pulled out, then said yes, then pulled out. People like that, I think, are always interesting interviews. I mean, the holy grail in celebrities is Jack Nicholson, the movie star, hasn't given a television interview in 45 years.
Wow. Can I tell you a story about Jack Nicholson?
Yes.
Dad's only ever asked for one person for a photo. And we were at Wimbledon. Well, I wasn't there, but Dad was at Wimbledon. It was probably, I think, late 2000s. He was with a few friends, sitting in the royal box. In front of him was Jack Nicholson and one of his friends. And his friend's dad was like, "That's fucking Jack Nicholson." Dad's gone, "Oh, I can't ask him for a photo, can I?" He's gone, "Okay, I'll just tap him and see what he says." So he taps him on the shoulder. No response. Dad's gone, "Oh, that's so embarrassing. I can't tap him again." His friend's gone, "I'll just tap him one more time." So Dad taps Jack again. No response. So Dad's like, "Okay, that's it. I'm not asking for a photo. He doesn't want to do anything." The guy's dad was with, "Just touch him one more time. That's all. The worst he can say is no." So before Dad's even tapped him and said, "Excuse me, Jack," he's tapped him and Jack's just turned around with that big smile on his face and just said, "Fuck off." And Dad's just gone, "Oh my God. That is the most embarrassing thing of all time."
I love that.
He's literally just gone, "This is why I don't ask."
Did he get his
anybody for
picture?
a photo. He didn't get the photo. And had to sit within the next 3 hours in the royal
That's
box
hilarious.
in awkward silence.
I love that story.
Yeah, only person.
And I bet your dad never asked anyone again, right?
No, he never. He's the only person he asked for a photo, and then it was, I think, traumatized after.
I met Jack Nicholson once at a party in England, actually, and I was trying to work out how to talk to him. And Fergie, the Duchess of York, was there, who I knew well, and she was sitting next to him. So I said, "I really want to talk to Jack Nicholson." She said, "Well, don't tell him we're a journalist, for God's sake." She said, "Tell him something interesting." I said, "Like what?" She said, "Like a bank robber or something." I went, "Really?" She went, "Yeah, he'll love that." So he came back in a few minutes later, and I went over, and he had the shirt undone, the shades.
Yeah.
He was, he just come off the dance floor. And I went, "Jack," and he went, "Yeah." I went, "Fergie says if I tell you I'm a bank robber, you'll talk to me."
Yeah.
So he just did that big grin, and he went, "Did she now?" He said, "Well, you know what they say about bank robbers?" And I said, "I don't know, Jack." He said, "You never catch a good one. See you later, pal." And I was like, that's all I need.
Yeah, that's all you needed.
In fact, your dad and I both had great one-liners from Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
Mine was just a little bit more pleasant than this.
But I think that's exactly the response he would have wanted from somebody like Jack.
Of course.
No, the last thing, because I know we're running for time, the last thing I'd love to ask you was, what's Cristiano Ronaldo like? Because apart from Dad, he's probably my #1 athlete.
Do you know, I message with Cristiano, a few times most weeks. Known him 8 years now. He's very like your dad in that he's unbelievably loyal. If you're a friend, you're a friend. And if he trusts you, he'll tell you everything. And he's very open book, just like your dad was. But if you cross him, that's it. I find him funny. He's like your dad. He's funny, supremely talented. Your dad was the best bowler I've ever seen. Cristiano's the best footballer I've ever seen. Both very loyal, both incredibly, in their own way, passionate, hard-working about what they craft, be it in your dad's case, bowling or about commentating or whatever, a desire to constantly be the best, great around people, great with kids. You both were suckers for kids, right? Cristiano's exactly the same as your dad. Sees a young kid and he'll break through, and security try to stop him. He'll say, hey, come on. Yeah. Your dad was always like that. So very similar, two goats right up there in my goat list.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Piers. Well, mate, thank you so much
mate,
for coming on.
Great to see you.
No, you too. Thank you.
Great to see you, mate.
That was great.
Really good to meet you last.